Hey there, you have discovered the Austin Tech Connect podcast. This is the official podcast of the Austin Technology Council, where we talk with people who are building, leading, and shaping the future of Austin's technology community. Austin Tech Connect is made possible by our friends at Calavista Software. Without a great sponsor like Calavista, we couldn't do this show, and they're the sponsor for the whole year of 2026, and we appreciate their continued support of the Austin Technology Council and the Austin Tech ecosystem. So today I am joined by Robyn Fuentes, and she is the president of Improving Southwest. And we're going to learn a little bit more about what they do. They have been a supporter of the Austin Technology Council for a long time. If you attend our events, many of their people in Austin show up at those events. But if you don't know Robyn, and you might not, she actually lives in Houston, but she covers Austin and the whole Southwest. She is a technologist at heart. She has a deep background in tech, but she loves working to help companies maximize their ability using all of these crazy technologies that are coming out, moving fast and doing stuff. She loves to help executives be efficient and have ROI when it comes to everything they're doing in the world of software. So Robyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So Robyn, let's go back in the Wayback Machine. You know, you're a technologist at heart. Where did you start in college? What did you major in, and what did you do right out of school?
That's a great question. I actually find it a pretty funny story. I actually wanted to be a detective coming out of school.
Nice.
And this story isn't going to make any sense to begin with. But I was a math major, which does not compute with wanting to be a detective. And I decided
I'm going to jump in and disagree. My son-in-law is a quant for a hedge fund. He's one of the smartest mathematicians of his generation. And what I say about him every time I introduce him to anybody is he's a math wizard. I mean, he really, really is one of the smartest mathematicians. I go, but at heart, Thomas is a problem solver. So I think being a math major sets you up very well for being a detective, had you gone that way.
Yeah, I think about it sometimes still. I'm like, what if I did go that direction? In fact, the thing that actually got me to move away from that was I wanted my nights and weekends back after working in the restaurant business for a very long time. And so I decided to pivot the end of my junior year, and I didn't have a lot of time. And through connections with friends and different people, I ended up landing a job, and they did this onboarding program. They taught us how to code for a week, and then gave me a job in development. And so I learned on the job, and it has been a wild ride to date, but I honestly have zero regrets. Talk about problem solving. I don't think I could have landed in a better profession for the way that I think.
That's nice. So you've been with Improving for a decade now, and you now run the Southwest. You're president of Improving Southwest, or South Texas, excuse me. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about Improving. I mean, I know that you guys do software consulting and help people in that realm, but give us a little background.
Yeah, so Improving has been around for 17, 18 years. When I started, we were probably like 340 people. Now we're sitting about 2,500. I think we're in, I'm going to forget all the numbers, but 21 different office locations, 7 countries, something in that realm. And so we've seen the growth, but overall, we've been software centralized, whether it is custom app development, coaching and training in how to build software correctly, do it well, do it efficiently, train the teams. And we have obviously, like most software companies today, have a heavy focus in data and AI, along with platform, because everything has to sit on something, right? So those are the primary areas, which is incredibly broad, but also, I think, specific in the types of problems it solves.
Sure. So I brought you here today because we were going to talk a little bit about how companies kind of all sizes. I mean, you guys obviously work with larger, mid-sized, larger, and to larger companies, but really companies of all size. How can they prepare for what's going on in the world, of AI and how it's impacting everybody, with teams that have to move faster, teams that are going to be smaller, and what AI really means downstream to the impact that they're going to have, and how they stay ahead. So you're talking to a lot of people throughout the state all the time about how they're implementing, how it's having an effect. So what are some of the projects that you've worked on that we can kind of start to sort of go with, where you say, this is what we're seeing in the field?
Yeah, we're doing a broad range of projects, whether it's everything from as complex as an ERP system to oil and gas management systems, to monitoring and asset management systems, And they all have very, very distinct problems using AI for predictive things, whether it's just using AI to speed up. But it doesn't stop there, right? Because now technology has kind of entered the realm of everybody's job. So there's a lot of people going, I've never been a technologist. How in the world am I supposed to learn how to automate my entire job? So I've seen a broad range of things. I've seen projects go where the cost of tokens is more expensive than the benefit they get out of going faster. I've seen some where they're going 6x faster and seeing that value in way faster than would have been previously imaginable, and everything in between. We're also doing, interestingly enough, something we call the DLP. It's a deep learning program. And in some companies, we're actually taking 90 teams and up training that entire set of people over a span of an intensive 12-week program, and seeing all of the good, bad, and ugly that happens inside of that when people are trying to adopt, whether it's individually or organizationally. So it's been fascinating to see it all happen at the same time, basically.
So I want to touch on that. Would you call it the DLP, the deep learning?
Uh-huh.
That would be something, I think, if you're dealing with a company that's got, several teams and you're going to put people through this sort of deep learning around AI, some people have to be a little bit nervous. I mean, it can't be like everyone on the team. I mean, I understand like the technologists are going to be, yay, look at all the fun tools. But like you said, which I thought was so true, everyone is touched by technology. So what kind of pushback are you getting from people about doing this intense of a 12-week training?
Most of it is concern around the time use, actually. And so our approach to it has been different depending on your background. Like if you're a technologist coming alongside and being like, look, I'm going to make you go faster, whether it's me helping work alongside you or just the net benefit of the speed. For people not in technology or with a technology background, it's generally much more specific at a problem set. Right. Let's talk about the process of your business. What actually happens? Because most companies that we work with have like, well, the process is it goes from here to here to here to here. And we get in there and we talk to the people on the ground. They're like, well, actually. And so really being able to break that down and find things where there is value there and helping them understand just enough to take 3 steps forward, while also helping the company build a support system to enable them to continue to move forward without having to be a technologist themselves.
Do you find that there's fear? I mean, the media has latched onto this, that, there's so much fear that our jobs are going to go away. Are you finding people who aren't the technologists are a little worried they're going to go through this training and just train you to teach the AI to do their jobs?
So much so. And it's all over the place. It doesn't help that we're hearing stories of like, oh, this guy, he had a accounting team of 15 people. They started implementing AI and now he has 3, right? Those stories aren't helping. And even some of the people who are training, they're like, I don't want to do this because you're just training me for AI to take my job. And a little tongue in cheek, but part of my reaction is, well, if you don't decide to learn it, maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. However, the way I like to think about this is if you think about the evolution of jobs over the last 100 years, right? There was no such thing as a computer programmer 50 years ago, right? There was no such thing as a prompt engineer until 10 years ago or however long that's been.
Probably not even that long.
Yeah, and then it's gone almost as fast because then everybody's a quote unquote prompt engineer. So these professions come and go, and people learn to adapt to the next thing. They find a new opportunity in what that evolution is. And so the word of encouragement I have to people in the world is yes, change is scary. Absolutely. But my recommendation, I guess, to most people is embrace it. Find what you can love about it and use that as an opportunity to springboard you into something that's even better than where you are today, as opposed to pulling back in fear and letting that wave of sorts come and do whatever it does do to your job.
Well, I mean, I think you bring up a brilliant point, and that is that if we look back over 100 years, there were jobs that were like the safe jobs. There were jobs that were the up and coming jobs that don't exist anymore, right? I mean, we can go back to a lot of things, but I mean, if we go back as far as the printing press, the Industrial Revolution, the introduction of the automobile, television, the computer age in the 80s as they came in, everybody said, people got scared and everybody said, oh my gosh, this is moving too fast. Or they said, this is going to take jobs. Well, yeah, it moved fast and it did change jobs. But if you look at the economy over 100 years, we've created more jobs, more recently, even with more people than ever. So what do you think is going to happen to these clients you're working with now as we go through this? Do you think this is going to be fast change? Do you think this is going to be not as fast as people are predicting? Or what are you seeing out there as far as what you think the reality of changing jobs and changing departments and such?
I think that there's going to be a lot of shifting before there's a lot of changing. So let me explain. Let's talk about market fit and the ability to have a market position as a company, right? If you're a market leader and somebody else comes out with a huge differentiator, they have the chance to overtake you in the market and potentially take your market share, right? They're gonna take your customers. The idea there is that kind of pressure is provided to the other person to then adopt some of those same practices just to keep up without shrinking. So if you think about that, let's say company one is the leader, company two is behind, two adopts AI and they springboard in because they either are able to do more with less time or they are able to do more with less cost or do same with less cost. The second company is going, oh no, I need to do that too. But the people that they're going to hire, let's say the company two let people go, they're probably going to hire those people. So there's going to be this like shift around. And you think about technology, right? Like there are technologies that are out there that haven't been used in 20 years that are still being used in production live in systems and companies today. Change happens on the top edge very, very fast. So you're talking about the startup world, some of the more small company world, you'll see it way, way faster. If you start talking about the giants out there, the very large companies that probably aren't technology companies, you might see adoption take a long time. I think the best parallel I can give here is the agility adoption. Agile is not new and hasn't been new for a very long time. If you talk to somebody in a startup, like in San Francisco, you're like, do you know agility? They're going to be like, we don't even use that word anymore. That just is the way of working. But if you talk to somebody in a giant oil and gas company, they have no idea what I'm talking about, and they still do things of kind of the old format. So similar parallel, I guess.
So this kind of realms into a question, I think, for a company like yours that's really consulting people on how to handle all this stuff is, how do you think people are going to have to reorganize their teams? Is there going to be real shifts when it comes to organizing these teams around these new technologies that are coming in?
I do. I think you're going to see a massive shift to smaller teams. Now, the analogy I always uses, you want to have a pizza team, right? A small enough team that a pizza feeds them.
I love that. I've not heard that before. I love that.
Yeah. And I think that's even going to shrink. You're going to see way more teams of 2, 3 with a swarm of agents supporting them, which means if you want to scale, you got to be able to scale more in parallel, which means that your processes, your systems, all of those things are going to need to change to support that, no matter what department you're talking about. So you got to worry about things like downstream bottlenecks. You're going to worry about things like collision or approval process and bottlenecks. All of those things are going to come roaring to the surface as almost emergency problems to solve as you see this smaller team, higher output work start to come and really shape.
So along those lines, within companies, and within society, there's different camps. There's people who are early adopters. They're using the AI. They're creating agents. They've got people doing work for them. They've got everything happening. And within your team, you've got those people. Then you also have the people who are like, how does this AI stuff work? And they're using AI like it's a super juiced up Google, or they think, oh, AI is the greatest thing in the world. It makes my writing better. I put my emails through it before I send them out. And it's like, yes, that is a possible use for it, but it's not necessarily the use that's getting to the high end productivity and stuff. So what are you seeing around this idea of the different camps that are out there in the companies you're working with and within society?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot of polarization, actually. A lot of people on ground zero, and a lot of people on the extreme other end of like we're doing all of it all in, and a few people in the middle, but less so. So the people that are afraid of it are often they're afraid of a handful of things. Whether let's say it's a bank who can't approve AI usage because it's just too risky as a tool inside of their system. Um, let's say they are a company where technology hasn't even been a big thing in their organization. And so the idea of AI coming in without having that technology backbone or those technology thought leaders. So it really is across the board. I think over time, though, a lot of those smaller groups and companies, as more tools off the shelf that are way more intuitive to use are coming available, people are starting to move forward. And honestly, in full transparency, it scares me.
Why is that?
And there's a couple of reasons. One is AI is incredibly good, especially large language models, at looking incredibly smart. So you mentioned using it as a Google search. Well, let's talk about that, right? Google back in the day, we would Google something back in the day. It's crazy to say. We would search something and we would see the articles pop up and we'd have some idea of like, you don't look at the Onion to get accurate information. You maybe trust Wikipedia, but you understand that that's lots of people adding to it. But you have some idea of where that information is coming from. And so now when we're asking AI, we're treating it as the encyclopedia from back in the day. And the idea that AI knows the right answer or even understands in concept what that answer is isn't true. And so the barrier of effort to understand and verify the information you're getting is bigger, which I think demotivates people from doing that effort. And so it's scary to me because of the change psychologically and socially that can cause. And the other side of that is the understanding of where your data is going, where it's living, what people are doing with it, and the actual risk to your organization as a result. Like, hey, you're using a certain license level on a very widely accepted tool. Did you know that license level means that they can train on your data? Those types of things, I don't feel a lot of people have been equipped to understand how to walk down that path. And so we've been taking a lot of time to do a lot of broad thought leadership and public speaking and education to try to at least have people be aware of those traps as they go down that road.
You bring up something, you talk about that it used to be you'd say, hey, that's from the Onion. I'm not following that. Oh, that's from the New York Times. I'm probably going to trust that there's been a couple of sources that have been vetted. And now it's just compiling things and saying things. I think one of the problems, and I think this is what you just said, is the better it gets, the more dangerous it gets, because when it's wrong, we're just going to blindly accept it. I mean, originally when it came out, we all knew it was hallucinating, all the time. And when you would ask it to create a graphic, it couldn't spell things correctly, even if you spelled it for them. And people had 6 fingers and stuff like that. But now it's getting so good that our trust level, I think, is going way up. And as we're getting more of these, as you said, off-the-shelf tools that are coming out, how do you think that's going to impact the growth of AI? Is it going to hold people back, or are people going to go full speed and get in trouble?
Pessimistically, I think people are going to get in trouble. I think people have gotten in trouble. There is an interesting double perception that's getting created too. So say, for example, I'm working with a client. If I send them a proposal and you can tell it's written by AI, I might get laughed out the room, right? And so there's starting to be a negative perception of the use of AI. And so you almost want to be a incognito AI user, but that does force you to actually look at the content of what you're building. So what I'm hopeful of is that us as a society do value that expertise input that is in AI that everybody has access to. And that reaction is going to kind of force us to stay in that realm. But we'll see.
So what are you seeing, again, going back to where we started with companies that either you're working with or you're proposing to work with? Why are companies coming to a firm like yours? What are the three biggest concerns that these larger companies have when they say we need to hire a consultant like you?
A lot of it is not knowing where to start. There's there's scale that they don't know where to go, or hey, we saw AI's pinnacle as here, and then they listen to us talk and they realize it's way up here, and they're like, hey, is the way that we're going to our direction, is it getting in the way of doing that? So as we walk people through that process and some of the lessons learned that we did, so we've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours internally going through steps, through different business processes, through software development, through a bunch of pieces, and being able to turn around and be like, I can significantly help you save in tokens, time spent, bunch of cost. And that's often why people are coming to the table with us, mostly for advice and then partially for standing stuff up. We've taken kind of three different approaches to this. One is, hey, you've got things you need to accomplish, and you can accomplish them faster and cheaper with AI. But we can also pair with you and say, we're going to bring your team alongside us. You're not only walking out with a product, you're also walking out with a team ready to take on the next thing. We're doing the DLP that I was talking to you about, where we're coming in and just straight up training them with workshops and what we're calling embedded engineers, which is somebody kind of coming in and pairing along. And the last one is, let's help you pick what that highest ROI target is, and actually implement it for you so that you're able to hit the ground running, not only in what the thing is or how to build it.
So if we had hundreds of people listening right now and they've listened for the past 22 minutes and they're sticking with us, if there was one piece of advice that you could give to business leaders across the company size thing, but across the board, what is the one thing you wish everybody would listen to right now and do in this world of change and AI?
If I'm talking to business leaders, I think the thing that has been the most impactful for me is don't shy away from the reality of the impact of the people that work for you. I went as far with my company of saying, look, guys, you might not have a job if you don't upskill, but here's how to have a job, and how to go about that. And I think that it creates trust in the honesty, but also enables them. And so we're pouring a lot of time and energy into training and helping people get there. I think shying away with fear actually hurts both of you guys, but it's also incredibly scary to say those words out loud when the market fear is it'll take your job.
Mm-hmm. Well, I kind of like what you said, I mean, we're talking to the executives, but taking this down to sort of the rank and file, hey, this might take your job, but, this is how you're going to have a job. This is how you're going to change. So let's talk to the rank and file who maybe their company's not hiring someone like you to come in to do a DLP. And it's just Ryan or Becky, and they're working for a company and they're listening to this right now. And they're like, what can I do to protect myself without my company investing in hiring, improving?
A big part of that is going to be curiosity. There is now tons of content online. So let's say, for example, you decide to pick up, I'm going to use Claude as an example. They have a certification on how to use it as a tool. Do it, right? Pay the money, not only for the license, but to get that certification. These things where you're investing in yourself and spending some time to upskill, I think are crucial, because you can spend 5 minutes a day now taking advantage of the times where this is optimal and iterating on your skills, or you're going to be spending months later trying to catch up to something that feels like a monster. So I think the biggest recommendation is spend it consistently, and try to keep up at least a little bit.
Nice. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit. And normally I talk to most of the people I interview live in Austin. So the next question, usually I'm going to shift it a little bit here, but the next question usually is about what do you see going on in the Austin tech ecosystem? What do you think we're doing right? What do you think we're doing wrong? But because your company is all over the state, all over the world, I want to take this question a little bit differently, because I have a real belief that the tech communities in Texas 20 years ago, it's very different today. It was, if you looked at Texas 20 years ago, Austin was where all the attention went for tech. Yeah, there was tech happening in Houston and Dallas and San Antonio, et cetera. But all the attention and most of the money and most of the growth was happening in Austin. But now Dallas is like the number one relocation place for Fortune 500 tech companies to move their headquarters to. They have a growing startup scene. They have a middle market scene. Houston, same thing with the energy tech and the med tech. There's so much stuff happening. San Antonio has stuff happening. So let's look at the state. What do you, because you cover most of it for improving, what do you think is happening that's good in Texas? And what do you think we need to be doing a little different to make Texas a little bit stronger?
Yeah, Texas, I think, is in an incredibly unique position. So Texas in general is a very friendly business climate, which is part of the reason why it's so attractive to companies right now to come, right? There's, as you mentioned, there's that hub in Plano, which we are also in Plano. So we get to be right part of the middle of that. There's a ton happening. And I think the fastest growing cities in the United States have been a Texas city for the last, I think 8 out of 10 years or something ridiculous like that. Yep. Now, the interesting thing is Texas also has a lot of land. So we're also a target for data centers coming in outside of the cities and whatnot. Now, people have very mixed reactions to that one in particular, because nobody wants to live next to a data center. And then all of the shortages on materials and water and energy and all these things hit the grid in Texas. But I think what it's creating is we end up having almost a metroplex of these giant cities, which Texas has, I think, the highest density of large cities, that come together and say, we now have the hub across industry, across company size, across a whole bunch of different areas. Let's innovate. You want somebody who figures out what a new solution to cooling to solve the water problem? Let's do that in Texas. You want the company to figure out how to solve the chip shortage problem? I think we're uniquely positioned to really be the springboard of innovation in the next phase of technology and AI, and figuring out how to make it both affordable and scalable to the degree that we're seeing it's going to need to be.
So what are we doing right and wrong right now then?
Right. I think we are leaning into leveraging AI in Texas. I think we have a couple companies that are really leaders in that space. I don't think we're investing enough in innovation. I think we're mostly focusing on the big movers and shakers and not doing a whole lot of startups, big funds, those types of things that I think could really, really help us out.
Yep, I concur with all of that. So, Robyn, any final words for people who are listening?
I think enjoy it. There's a whole lot of mess. There's a whole lot of back and forth. Learning can be incredibly fun if you find the fun in it. So I think my biggest recommendation, or my biggest last words, is have fun in the process. Find the fun.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Austin Tech Connect, and thank you for everything that Improving does here in the Austin community and beyond. And thank you to everybody who tuned in and listened. You know, I say it every show. If it wasn't for people listening to the show, why would we do the podcast? We've been doing it for over 3 years. The listenership keeps growing, but the only way it's going to keep growing is if you share this podcast with your coworkers and your other friends who are part of the Austin tech scene. You know, go and ask your favorite AI, what is the podcast to listen to in the Austin tech community, and it's going to give you several, but it's always going to give you this one. So make sure that you're sharing Austin Tech Connect and that you're back next week for our next interview. We'll see you then.